Hello beautiful people, and welcome back to my podcast where you can gain insight on my perspective. My name is Hayden, and this is episode 15 of a series called 24 Lessons I've Learned in My 24 Years of Life. Learn to live for yourself. I know this sounds selfish. I know it might sound crazy to some people. If you've ever been a people pleaser like myself, you know that living for yourself is so important. Putting yourself first, so important. Do not plan your life around the expectations of others. Do what you know is best for you, especially if you're a people pleaser. Now's the time to be selfish. You can still be selfless and you can still be selfish at the same time. A lot of what I talk about in these podcast episodes is finding that balance. My life restarted the day I decided this is how I'm gonna live my life, not based off any previous expectations, anything passed down my family tree. I began saying yes to finding better ways to care for myself, and that was for my mental health, physical health, spiritual health. I found ways to take care of myself and started saying yes to myself and no to others. I refused to be anyone but my authentic self. And if anyone told me otherwise, I would just show them. I learned that even though I could tell somebody who I was, that doesn't mean that they were going to know who I was. You know, they might not follow that. They're gonna be like, no, I see you this, gonna tell you who you are based off my perspective, which that's fine because I know who I am, so it really doesn't matter what you think of me. It does not matter what you think is best for my life. Unless I'm doing harm to myself or others, then sound advice would be appreciated. However, every single decision I've made for myself ever since I started living for myself has not affected anyone else, has not hurt me, has not hurt other people. I do things out of the love and kindness of my heart and soul. I do things that bring me joy and do things that bring other people joy. Because a lot of the times, what brings me joy brings other people joy. And if it doesn't, I find people that experience those same joys. Now, I'm not saying I had a bad childhood. I was very blessed, and my parents always did the best that they could raising both my brother and I. But I was always told what to wear, and sometimes I would combat that. And then my parents would be like, oh, maybe we should let them wear this. That's cool, that's fine, it's whatever. It pays to not have to fight this kid on what they want to wear. Over time, they would see, oh, this kid's more comfortable wearing clothes like this versus what I want them to wear. I want them to like the same things as me. I want them to do the same things as me. I want them to be a mini version of myself, which if you're having kids to do that, you're having kids for the wrong reasons. Souls come into this world through these bodies. They are on their own mission. They're not here to be a miniature version of you. Sure, they look like you, they have similar features, especially if they're biological and they have your genetics. They're gonna look like you in some way, shape, or form regardless. And they're gonna act like you in some way, shape, or form because you're raising them. But they don't need to like the same things as you. They don't have to do the same things as you. They do not need to follow in the same footsteps as you. My dad wanted my brother and I to play golf so badly. He had us both try out golf. My brother ended up liking it. I did not. And I people pleased for several years because I played golf for the fact that my dad wanted me to play it. You think I liked walking around on a golf course all day in the blazing heat or pouring rain, playing golf? All that I wanted to do was get my little cheese cracker every time I hit. That was positive reinforcement. My grandma brought Cheez-Its to my golf matches because she knew I hated what I was doing, but I was doing it because my dad loved seeing me play golf. And I loved seeing my dad's excitement. It was just unfortunate that I had to do something for him, something that I did not enjoy, but it brought him joy, just to see that excitement in him, just to feel that approval. I got to the age where I was like, okay, and this was really funny. Since I was so young and I was the only one in my age division most of the time, I have like 6 championship flags for golf. I would win my tournaments because I was the only one in my age division. I would still play against people that were older than me, and like it was cool to chat with people every once in a while. But a lot of the times, I would literally tell my dad, I was like, I do not like golf. I don't like playing golf. Putt-putt, sure, but I don't like this. I'm not a fan of this. I'd rather play soccer. You know, he was like, you know, just give it another try. Give it another try. And I'm like, you don't understand, sir. I don't like this. I'm not a fan of this. Which, like, I'm sure somewhere deep down it broke his heart that I did not like to play. But I finally was able to get the point across that I genuinely did not like playing golf. I played it for him. And that was the people pleaser in me, was wanting to get that approval from my dad, wanting to see that joy on my dad's face of, me doing something that he loved doing, because like obviously that's how you bond with your kid, is you do something you both like, except I was doing something he liked, and I just liked riding around in a golf cart. I liked getting hot dogs. I liked getting a drink. I liked the idea of it, but I didn't actually like golfing. Which kind of sucks, because like part of me wanted to like it because my dad liked it, my brother liked it, and I was like, this is how I bond with them. But that ended up being their thing that they bonded over, which was fine, because one of the things that my dad and I bonded over was skateboarding. I continued skateboarding for the rest of my life, and I picked up a longboard when I moved to Florida, and I've always skated. That's something fun, and he used to skate all the time. He bought a longboard when I moved down here too, so he could skate with me, and that's how we bonded. And that was cool. But it was that day that I was like, I'm putting my foot down, because I be trying to please somebody else and not myself. I'm playing this sport that I don't even like, all for somebody else, so why am I putting myself through this? Soccer was a sport that I really liked. I wasn't pleasing anyone. I said, I'm playing soccer. I am playing soccer. However, when I should have gotten off the team because my shin splints were really bad, I decided to stay on the team, and I got benched for a whole season. And I was just doing more harm than good to myself, because I couldn't swallow my pride. I didn't want to be off the soccer team because I loved it so much. But I wasn't the best at it. I also wasn't fit. I also had issues with my hormones at the time, so there was just a lot of factors playing in. There was so much resistance, and I didn't know when to like drop things when I needed to. But I was living for myself. I was making decisions for myself. But yeah, my parents always did their best raising me. You know, there was a lot of times that I wouldn't see my parents speak up for things, so I think I stayed quiet, because both of my parents did people please as well. They would stay quiet, they would get anxious around, like, you know, certain situations. Like, I wouldn't see them like physically or verbally fight with anybody. Like, my parents weren't ones to raise their voices when I was a kid, so I never saw them get into like arguments often, or disagreements, or any of that. So I guess I didn't have like readily available examples of like having an argument and also still standing for what you believed in, because a lot of the times it was just like compromising. There was just always a lot of compromising, and it was doing something for the other person that they didn't actually want to do, but they did it anyway because it's love, which like I get that to some extent. But also, if it's like fully one-sided, and I'm not saying this was my parents at all, but if there's something fully one-sided that the person did not want to do and they were doing it anyway, they were living too much for the other person, not enough for themselves. By not living for myself growing up, I didn't know how to be an advocate for myself. I was always really good at advocating for others, but not for myself. Until I got older, then I was like, this is what I'm doing for myself. And it was when I stopped asking for the opinions of others, which was very recently, then I started fully living for myself. I was tired of choices being made for me, and I was like, why can't I make my own choices? Oh, it's me. It's me telling me that I can't make my own choices. And I have everyday examples in my life. Working at a coffee shop, I see like husband and wife come in, and or boyfriend and girlfriend come in, and they're like, what should I get today? He's like, I think you should get this. And she's like, but I don't want that. What else should I get? And it's like so back and forth, and he's like, no, you don't need that. You don't need that. And and I know that if my coworkers are listening to this, they're gonna know exactly the customers I'm talking about. But I'm not saying names, I'm not saying anything, because it just baffled me to see somebody asking for permission as adults to get a certain beverage that either had more or less caffeine or more or less sugar in it. Like, it was crazy to me to see that the wife was asking the husband for his permission. A lot of the times, like, the wife would pay and the husband would pay, but it was just like, it is so interesting to see that. I was like, I cannot imagine myself being with a partner and being like, can I get this? You're your own person. Get what you want. Get what you want. I don't care. If it's gonna benefit you, get what you want. If you're like genuinely asking for my opinion, like, I'll give you it, but you don't have to follow it, because you already know what you want. You already know. When you focus on living for yourself, you realize that you have all the answers within you. And you can be inspired by others. You can hear little snippets from others that kind of piece puzzles together. But the majority of the time, you already know the answer. If you're having to ask somebody for their opinion, you already know what you want. Because a lot of people ask for other people's opinions for validation, or to hear them say something in agreement with what they were thinking, just to give them confirmation and to give them a little bit more confidence for the go-ahead. When in reality, when we listen to other people, we're doing what's best generally, but not exclusively for ourselves. Because at that point, we're taking into consideration of, this is what this person would do if they're in this situation, and I trust them, so maybe this would work out. But if I always listened to the opinions of others based off their interests, I would be removing myself from the equation, and therefore the advice I was asking for to begin with is no longer applicable to me. And since I always had to ask for the opinions of others and I didn't make decisions for myself, I had to live with those choices. I ended up doing what other people wanted me to do versus what I wanted to do, simply because if they were in my shoes, they would have chosen to do things in the way in which they were giving me advice on how to. I always had a hard time saying no, being raised as a yes man, because not that I was raised in the South where I would call everybody yes ma'am, yes sir, but that's exactly how I was, minus saying it all the time. It was, if somebody asks you to do something, you're gonna do it out of the kindness of your heart. I had a hard time saying no because I said yes all the time, and I got myself into very dangerous situations a lot of the time because I did not know how to say no. And I'm not blaming my parents, but I didn't have a good example of saying no to something I didn't want to do, because starting off in my childhood, my parents never taught me how to have a voice of my own, to say no to people, to say no to things I did not want to do, because in my house, if you didn't want to do something, you would get spanked. If you said no, it was talking back, which I feel as though, like, yes, my parents, like I said, did do their best on raising my brother and I feel that we would have had a much better relationship if they could understand why their child was saying no to them. And it's not because my mom would be like, do the laundry, and I would say no. It was, maybe I'm working on something at the moment that I can't drop everything. The request that she's asking of me is not immediate. It's not an emergency. Whatever my reasoning for saying no was immediately dismissed. It was no longer valid. And it was, doesn't matter what you're doing, who you're talking to, doesn't matter what it is, you're gonna drop what you're doing to do something for me. So growing up, I neglected myself a lot. And I would drop everything to help any other person in my immediate radius that needed help, whether that was strangers, which got me into very dangerous situations, or friends. And it sucked a lot of time and energy away from myself because I was always pouring from an empty cup. I never had the energy to even care for myself by the time I was done caring for everyone else around me. And I even saw that the people that I did pour my heart and soul into for caring for and staying up really late on the phone to talk to them, they would not have done the same for me. Now, I'm not saying everyone, because I know that I have friends that we both have done that for each other who are listening to this. There were people in my life that I was like, oh, because I'm doing this for them, you know, I expect that they're gonna do the same for me because that's what I've had with my other friends in the past. No, that's not how it went. And I got taken advantage of a lot, but I allowed that person to take advantage of me. I chose to stay up on the phone till 3 a.m. when I worked at 4 a.m. Like, I actively was making these poor decisions for myself. And for the longest time, I didn't know why. I didn't understand the reason behind why I was doing all the things that neglected my health. And it does go back to the root cause, which was in my childhood, X, Y, and Z happened. And now I have to go back, remember those, remove those limiting beliefs, and that literally alters the way that you think. And I learned that from my alignment coach, Adeline, that I worked with for 8 weeks, which, if you're listening to this, Adeline, thank you for changing my life in some way, shape, or form, because I am seeing life from a very new perspective where I know how to handle these situations that come up. I know how to remove certain limiting beliefs that pop up in my life. And I know how to do these things because I'm living for myself. Versus if I maybe ask a family member, do you know why I'm thinking these things? They're gonna be like, probably because you're this, or probably because you're doing that, or probably because, you know, everybody's gonna have their own reasons and opinions. And if I listen to those, then I'm gonna believe them. But I got to the point where I don't need to believe everything everyone else says. I take whatever resonates and I leave behind what does not. Which is a lot of what I talk about in these podcast episodes, is taking what resonates and leave what does not. because what's meant for you will find you. Even if it leaves, it's supposed to happen. I'm a strong believer in that. And granted, everybody can believe in whatever. If you experience life being a people pleaser, such as myself, now's the time to take back that time for yourself. Be a little selfish. If you can't fully be selfish, be a little selfish. And I'm not saying stop helping other people, because I fully believe that I was put on this earth to help people in some way, shape, or form, because I'm always wanting to help other people, even after I help myself now. But I've learned to put myself first, because if I agree to so many things and I'm not taking the time to care for myself in the process, I'm gonna be pouring from an empty cup. But now I'm able to pour from a cup that is spilling over with abundance and joy and gratitude, and I can give that to other people while still being full on my end. And you know, there's gonna be days where my cup is not full and somebody else is able to fill up my cup a little bit more with the spillage coming out of theirs. But I never expect anybody else to pour from an empty cup and take it from me, because I would feel really bad, because that's just the person I am. If you're not doing well, do not give me attention. Like, please. If I'm not doing well and I ask somebody else who also isn't doing well, it's not fair, because we both have empty cups. We can recharge that. We can go stand outside in the rain and fill up our cups together. Some people in my life I can recharge with. There are so many people in my life right now that I'm like, could totally recharge with you. However, I prefer to do it on my own, and that's okay. But when you start treating yourself with respect and love and taking the time to actually care for yourself and fill up your cup first, watch your life transform. Watch your life bloom. We're always growing. Now it's time to garden. Now it's time to start sprouting. Now it's time to start blooming. Don't get me wrong, I'm still a yes man to some extent, because I don't want to miss out on opportunities now. I say yes to the things that feel right and that sometimes don't feel right. And I learned along the way which path I was actually supposed to go down, which most of the time it is the right path regardless. Even if I don't have fun doing whatever I agreed to, I still appreciate that moment, because I know, hey, at least I tried this. I can say that I tried this now, instead of I don't like that, knowing damn well I never tried it. You don't know until you don't try. But find that balance of saying yes and no to the things you want to do. Do what is best for you. And I still have a hard time saying no to this day. I feel bad, and that's something I'm working through. I'm finding that limiting belief of, when is the first time I felt bad about this? When's the first time I felt really guilty about saying no? It's probably when I was a child and I told my mom no and she made me feel guilty. Like, it literally goes down to the root of everything. You have to go run it back, Turbo. You gotta take it so far back to find, when was the first time you even remember experiencing this belief of, I'm not allowed to say no to somebody? Because if we constantly just identify with that factor, we're gonna be like that the rest of our lives. If you identify with having constant anxiety, you're gonna have constant anxiety. I used to say all the time, I have anxiety. I have so much anxiety. I'm full of anxiety. I know how, like, I would tell anyone and everyone on a daily basis, it's because my anxiety, it's because I'm anxious. Do you know how anxious I was on a day-to-day basis? Because that's what I believed and what I thought to be true. So I believed every single day I was just full of anxiety. When I started realizing that it's a mix of emotions, there can be some anxiety, some excitement, but that's not what I was experiencing on an hourly basis throughout the day. Like, it was moments of it, but I would identify so heavy with it that I was like, I'm anxiety. I might as well be the character from Inside Out. Like, if you identify so much with that, you're gonna become it. Just like I would always say how depressed I was and how sad I was, and then I would gravitate towards that music, and then everything about my personality would be sad and depressing. And it was just seeing how you can change your mindset and go down a completely different path than you were projecting to go down. Your mind is such a powerful thing, and I'll never stop talking about how powerful your mind is, because I didn't wake up to this idea till like the past 2 years of how powerful my mind is. I've had little snippets, and I'm still having little snippets, but I know that there are people out there that still have no idea, not even a sliver of how powerful their mind is, and they're just going on day to day. You're gonna find your way, I promise. You will. Everybody finds their way at some point or another. But no, throughout all of this, do not let other people make decisions for you. Live for yourself. Make those decisions for yourself, because you also become more in tune with yourself. You become more confident in yourself. You begin to trust yourself. And you gotta trust yourself before you trust others and allow other people to trust you. Because if you don't fully trust yourself, how is somebody else supposed to trust you? I'm not saying don't listen to other people. Take it with a grain of salt, like I said in a previous episode. Find that balance and live for yourself, not for others. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's podcast episode. I hope you guys gained something from this. Please leave a like, comment, rating, review, subscribe, download this podcast on Spotify and Apple Music. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, maybe subscribe, get notified every single time I post. Everybody knows that these come out every Monday at 6 p.m. I hope to see you guys in next week's podcast episode. Have a wonderful week.